Coming up on today's show, J.R. Barten is here as part of the 2016 GRL Blog Tour. Lisa from the novel Approach has her fall book recommendations, and we preview the Gay Romance Northwest Meetup.
Welcome to the Big Gay Fiction Podcast, the show for readers and writers of gay romance fiction. If you can read it, write it, watch it, or listen to it, these two guys are going to talk about it. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Adams and Will Knaus.
Welcome to episode number 50, the Big 50 of Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast. I'm Jeff from JeffAdamsWrites.com.
And I'm Will from WillKnaus.com. 50.
Happy 50.
Happy 50 to you, sir.
Quite the milestone.
Yeah. We don't have anything special planned.
I think the special comes episode 56 when we celebrate a year.
That's true.
That's true. We're 6 episodes away now from celebrating a year.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. Because we started right after GRL last year.
Yes, we did.
Yep. We are headed this weekend off to a con we've never been to.
Mm-hmm.
Headed the Gay Romance Northwest Meetup.
It is the... Oh, gosh.
It's a mouthful of a thing to say.
It's my... I've been bitching about this for a while. It is like the worst named event. Well, probably not ever, but really, really close to ever. It's just...
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. It doesn't completely make sense. It's just like... I don't know. So, yeah. From now on, we will just refer to it as GRNW, which is not any easier to say, really, but still, it's better than having to, mumble your...
Northwest Meetup.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so we're looking forward to this event, even though we're bitching about it so much already.
Indeed. We're really excited to go to Seattle. Since we moved back to the West Coast 2 years ago, we've been toying with the idea of going up to Seattle for the meetup. It's a little difficult in our travel schedule because it's a month off from GRL.
Yeah.
And it either falls on the week of or the week immediately after Cycle for the Cause.
Mm-hmm.
So for me this week, I get back from New York on Tuesday. I'm home Wednesday and Thursday, and then we're flying again on Friday to go up to Seattle.
Yeah. Busy times.
We're jet setters.
We are. Heck yeah.
But I'm psyched about the events that are on the schedule so far for this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reading at Hugo House on Friday night. It starts off with trans and genderqueer and non-binary authors in a program that they're calling Transfix at 7 o'clock. And then there's another program at 8:30 called Love Bits, which is short readings from an array of LGBTQ romance authors. Mm-hmm. And I love readings. And I think often I like readings a little bit more than you, because you just get this little snippet of stuff that might be like, I need to read that. Mm-hmm. And hear from authors that you've maybe never heard of before, or you've heard of but haven't picked up a book, and you get this little snippet that makes it just like, oh, I gotta get that. And there's a lot of cool panels going on at the Seattle Public Library from noon to 6 on Saturday the 24th. There's another trans authors panel that's going to be on character story and the industry. A panel whose name just I find very entertaining. Queer Swords and Odd Flowers, Sex Scenes in LGBTQ plus Romance. And then also one called Erase No More, Bisexual Characters in LGBTQ Romance. I wish I could split myself up and go to all of these, because there are ones that are against each other. Like I know trans authors and Queer Swords happen in the same time slot, for example. There's also writer roundtable discussions. There's a character type love match reader game, a book fair, an author meet and greet. I think it's going to be a really good time. Mm-hmm. We're going up there really just to hang out. I didn't register as an author. We registered the podcast as kind of being there. And I think that's the kind of capacity that we're in, is like covering it essentially for the podcast a little bit. Watch our Facebook page. If you haven't liked us at facebook.com/biggayfictionpodcast, you should do that, because it's very possible we'll do some Facebook Live while we're there. Maybe grab some authors to talk to, or take a minute on a break sometime just to say, hey, here's what's going on. The attendance is free, so if you're in the Seattle area, you can check out their website at gayromancenorthwest.wordpress.com. We'll have that in the show notes too, so you can just click on it. The attendance is free. You have to have a ticket. but they haven't, at least as we're recording this, about a week out from the event, they have not turned off ticket purchase yet. So there's could still be slots, so come join us there. They also have put out an anthology from some of the authors who are coming there called Magic and Mayhem, which is a mix of essays and short stories from the authors that are going to be there. We'll have a link to the show notes for that as well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it as well, despite my disdain for their name.
Yes, you've made that pretty clear.
Yeah, it's been an event. It's been on our radar for quite a while now, and it hasn't been convenient to get up to Seattle for several different reasons. But this year's the year. We're finally going to check it out, and I'm really looking forward to it. It should be really cool.
And the other thing we're going to look at while we're in Seattle is the Amazon bookstore.
Yes.
I am super psyched to check out the first Amazon physical bookstore.
So, yes, you can hear our review of the Amazon bookstore and our wrap-up thoughts on GRNW on the episode 52, which is going to air on October 3rd.
Yes. And to make sure that you're up to date on all things going on with the podcast and get the first preview of the authors that we've got coming up on our interview schedule, make sure to subscribe to our mailing list. You can do this. It's all over our website, quite frankly. You can just go to the homepage at biggayfictionpodcast.com and sign up right on the homepage, or you'll also find a sign-up box in the top right column on every show notes page.
So, yeah, go do that right now. All the cool kids are doing it.
That's right. And soon we will have special offers for the email list, folks. Some little fun things coming your way that we'll unveil most likely in October.
Time now for the GRL Guest Author Spotlight.
We're happy to welcome J.R. Barten to the podcast, this time as part of the official 2016 GRL Blog Tour. J.R., or Jen as friends call her, has always been an avid reader. When she was a kid, she found a huge box of old paperbacks at a neighbor's garage sale. She offered a quarter for the entire haul and then went home and locked herself in her room to read. This fueled her love of romantic fiction and inspired her to try her hand at writing. In 2013, Jen started writing fan fiction and then began creating her own original stories in 2014. Currently, her favorite genre to read and write is contemporary gay romance. She was born and raised in Iowa and now resides in the Twin Cities of Minnesota with her partner of 17 years and 2 rescue dogs. Thanks for being with us, Jen.
Hey, thank you for having me.
That haul in the garage sale sounds like the best thing ever.
And I would go to garage sales all the time because, and most of them were like Danielle Steele romances. But, they would have just these huge boxes of paperback books that they had already read. And I would actually stash them under my bed because I would sit on the floor and lean my back against the bed to do my homework. So when my mom would knock at the door and come in, I'd have my textbook up doing homework. But when she would leave, I'd reach under the bed and grab one of those paperbacks, and there I'd have it. So I always had a stash of books under the bed.
I envision you reading like with the flashlight under the sheet tent.
Oh yes, totally. Yep.
So now your newest book, Unfinished, came out at the end of August. Yep. And it's about 2 men who meet while they're getting semicolon tattoos. And in fact, you put a semicolon in the title, taking the place of the first I. Mm-hmm. Now, tell us what this book's about and the significance of those semicolons.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfinished is, and in fact, I have to give credit to one of my friends who actually came up with the idea of adding the semicolon in the title, which I think it really makes it. I love it. And then adding some of the semicolons in the book, I use them as the separators between POVs.
Sure.
So I try to incorporate it as much as possible. But, my wife has bipolar disorder and was diagnosed about 15 years ago. And last year she was getting a semicolon tattoo. And basically the semicolon it started as just a simple project. Somebody in 2013 told people to write a semicolon on their wrist with permanent marker with like a Sharpie to symbolize sort of their story is not over yet, kind of the way the semicolon is used in a sentence, It could have ended with a period, but they put a semicolon, and then, the next clause is attached to that previous phrase. So basically they're saying your story's not over yet. You still have more to do in this life. And it's really been embraced by anybody with any sort of mental health issue, anybody who's had family, friends, whether it's suicide, self-harm, anxiety, depression, any of those. And, when you go online now and search semicolon tattoos, oh my gosh, if you do it, you can totally be just overwhelmed with everybody's posts. They're putting them into butterflies and hearts and infinity symbols and writing the words, love is the answer, and replacing the I with a semicolon. So while I was sitting there at the tattoo shop while she was getting her tattoo, and our tattoo artist said, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing these all the time," it was like, ding, there was the light bulb. I'm like, that I would love to write a story about that, because I've been wanting to really incorporate something a little bit heavier into my writing, because before then it's been a little bit lighter, a little fluffier. And I've been wanting to really bring mental health awareness to the forefront and do it in my own way through the book. So that's kind of how it all started. Sitting there in the tattoo shop, the plot bunnies were going.
So tell us about the two guys in the book.
Yeah. You first meet Garrett, and Garrett is one of those kind of typical introverted techie guys who talks, to the computer much better than he does to people. And we find out that his last serious relationship was with a man who was diagnosed as bipolar, but basically chose to do nothing about it. And ultimately, it's what destroyed their relationship. Pierre is his ex, and he's currently, it got so bad with his impulsivity and everything that he's actually serving a 7-year sentence in jail. So Garrett gets his semicolon tattoo as sort of a reminder. He makes it big and bold on his arm. He wants to never forget what happened. He blames himself because he saw the signs and he never said anything. He basically just let the relationship fall apart. He didn't even officially break it off until Pierre was incarcerated, and let Pierre kind of say, "I'm going to jail, bye," So Dev, then, he meets at the tattoo shop. Dev is kind of the opposite in terms of extroverted, just fun-loving, enthusiastic guy, very generous, very blunt, and he's covered in tattoos. So when he comes to get his semicolon tattoo, I think he's on a 69th tattoo is what technically it's 69th. So he gets it because he does have bipolar depression. So he adds a semicolon, just sort of a smaller semicolon, to some of his others, just as a reminder. Basically, it's his 8th year with his diagnosis. And so initially, he's immediately attracted to Garrett. Garrett's a little afraid of him. They end up meeting at a club and end up hooking up. It's sort of a surprise to Garrett, not so much to Dev, because, he's kind of wanted this. And the relationship stays casual, sort of. They both kind of realize that it's something a little more. And then Dev gets to the point of confiding in Garrett and saying, "You know what, before this gets any more serious, I need to let you know that I do have bipolar depression." So it's really how Garrett handles that, knowing that that's his biggest fear, really, is that he's going to end up liking somebody, caring about somebody who has the same disorder that his ex had. So the first half is really dealing with that. The second half then deals with it really ends up being a lot about Garrett, because he has a lot of growing to do, and he has to come to terms with the fact he's been blaming himself for so long. thinking that it's his fault. And he hasn't been in touch with Pierre since he went to jail. So there are some pretty powerful moments where he finally gets a therapist, starts working through some of those issues, and then also meeting up with Pierre for the first time in 3 years, visiting him in jail and actually having that conversation saying, I'm so sorry, it's my fault. And Pierre saying, don't be so self-absorbed. It's not all, I did this. I own what I did. So definitely a happy ending with both Dev and Garrett. But there are, what I really wanted to do was change the way people saw, in particular, bipolar. Because so much of what we hear is, oh, he committed a crime. Oh, he committed suicide. Oh, he did this really bad thing. And it's so focused on just sort of criminal acts and the really negative side of bipolar. And so I wanted to present it. For the most part, Dev, he's, got his life together. He's very in touch with his illness. He's made it a part of him, and he's a very successful social worker at an LGBT homeless shelter, and does great things. So I wanted more of the message to be, you can look at somebody and not know that they have bipolar. Their life is great. They're doing great things. It's because they've really taken ownership and they've managed it. So I wanted it more to be about hope, not the, oh, poor me. Mm-hmm. I have, a mental health issue. Feel sorry for me. So I was going for the hopeful, mm-hmm. That you can kind of live an ordinary life. Ordinary, if anybody does that.
So as we're talking at this mm-hmm. point, the book's been out almost 2 weeks. How's the response been so far?
It's been incredible. And I told one of my friends this morning when she messaged me earlier that I've pretty much been crying almost every day. And they're happy tears. People who don't necessarily feel comfortable writing a review have emailed me or messaged me through Facebook. Saying things that I never imagined I'd hear about a book that I wrote. I've felt it before about some of my favorite authors, in their books, like, oh, that was such a great story, or it touched me, or it really moved me, it changed me. And then to hear one woman in particular messaged me through my Facebook page and said she saw my book in one of the Facebook groups, and normally she only spends $2.99 on a book because that's what's in her budget. And if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, mine is currently at $3.99. So she said, but I read the synopsis and I just kept thinking about it, and I decided to go for it. And she said, I really started thinking about my life and what I'm doing, and she started reading it, and she said, I've made a decision. She's like, I'm doing something about this. So I went to her Facebook page, and she basically, as a result of reading the synopsis and starting the book, she came out, is what she called it, with her depression and anxiety on her Facebook page, and just said, this is me. You don't know it to look at me, but this is what I struggle with every day. And I'm putting myself out there because we need more awareness. We need more people to hear about this. So I was just completely blown away. It was amazing. And turns out she's a nurse too. Mm. And she said, as a person in the medical profession, by hiding all of this, what am I doing? What sort of message am I giving? So she said, if this helps just one person, if I can help some people better now that I'm, more comfortable with kind of accepting this as a part of me, then I'm a better person and a better nurse for mm-hmm. it, a better professional. So, yeah, so that was very cool. Yeah.
What was the writing process like? Because it sounds like there's a lot in play in this book between dealing with two characters who have mental illness, in this case the bipolar, the guy who's kind of in the aftermath of one and leading into
Right.
another. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, and I really do. I built a pretty big story, and I'm not a typical. I'm definitely in terms of being an outliner or a pantser. When they say about how you write, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. I try so hard to be disciplined. I want to write every day. I want to hit a goal every day. I want to outline and have this perfect story idea. This one, I actually, for the first time, wrote out of order. It wasn't linear for me. And typically it's very important for me to kind of start at the beginning and just go through. And if I go back and add, that's fine. But for me, there's something just about writing from the beginning to the end that just kind of feels more natural to me. So this one, I just wrote as sort of scenes came into my head, as ideas came into my head. And then oftentimes one scene would just naturally flow into the next for me. I can say that, even though the book is complete fiction, characters and everything are made up, there are definitely scenarios in there that have happened in my life, in my relationships, similar types of things. So that shaped the story a lot too. This is how this came about in my life, and this is what it's been like having a partner, with bipolar, and who, my wife's been hospitalized 3 times, and she's, gosh, I mean, it really, life has changed significantly. You can't help but have to alter your life.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great writing this story, because I really, instead of an outline or anything, I just kind of let it go and just wrote, and then kind of pieced everything together. I had some really fantastic beta readers who came in and said, "Oh, a little bit more here or a little bit more here," and that really helped me. Because I was really so personally attached to the story,
Mm-hmm.
it was really important to me to get outside readers to make sure that this wasn't so internal, that people reading it would kind of feel the same way, that it wasn't just me kind of writing for my own catharsis.
Right.
Yeah.
Has your wife read it?
She has read parts of it. I asked her to write the foreword. So in the book, I do a brief, kind of a brief just introduction and a trigger warning about some of the topics. And that's where I also say, this is from my perspective. I'm not a mental health professional, and I also give resources. So I have the National Mental Illness Alliance information and the Suicide Prevention Hotline information, because I wanted to make sure that I put that out there too. But then Sherry, my wife, wrote the foreword, and it's a pretty honest presentation. She says, if you're looking for a fairy tale romance, don't read this book. There are some hard subjects in here, and I live with this disorder every single day, and it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that I wanted to include her, and I really felt that having her write that forward too, I don't know, would add maybe a little credibility. Prepare people more for what they were getting into. Yes. So I've run scenes by her, and she knows the book and everything. She doesn't really read a lot, and she doesn't read a lot of so she's read sections of it, but not the whole thing. So
Okay.
she does eventually want to read the whole thing. So yeah.
Cool. So what are you looking forward to in Kansas City this year?
My gosh, everything.
That's a good answer.
I was overwhelmed last year. It was my first GRL. Totally overwhelmed. I had a great roommate who basically said, take the time you need. It was a roommate I hadn't met before. We just met there. Take the time you need. Come back to the room if you have to, kind of let yourself adjust to this. And by the end, I was all in. I'm like, I'm ready. And it was like the last day. I'm like, oh, I have to go home. And it was, I had never been to San Diego before, and it was so hot.
Yes, it was.
Last year, it was hotter than it normally was. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate the heat. I'm like, and here I am. So it didn't affect me at all. So this year now, I'm actually going to be there with a good friend of mine. I talked her into going, and so we're rooming together. And looking forward to seeing a lot of the people that I met last year, people I just sort of met in passing. Like, I remember meeting you, but not really having much of a conversation. So I'm looking forward to, like, getting sort of reintroducing myself to people. I think I had just had my first book out for 5 months at the time I went to GRL. So now it's been a full year and a half, and I've got 3 books and a short story out. So I feel like people kind of will know me a little bit better, and maybe have a better idea of what I'm about and what I write about. But just the whole experience, I love just being able to go around and talk about, I'm so passionate about writing and about writing about men, and and just sort of incorporating some of these just regular old issues into those relationships. And I love just being able to sit down with somebody and start talking about it, or bring up a book, and, oh yeah, I read that. I love that. I can't do that every day with my friends here.
Sure. Sure.
So it's, so I'm looking forward to that, and just sort of being a little bit better at it this second year around, being better about going up to people and talking to people, and being confident about what I write. That's also kind of been an issue. Like, I can talk about everybody else's books, absolutely no problem, but I have a hard time sort of being a salesperson for myself.
Right.
So I want to do more of that too.
Good. And with this book, you definitely should. I think.
Yeah.
This is one that hits so many points that people should just read and
Right.
be aware of.
And well, a lot of my swag this year is going to have a semicolon. I have semicolon temporary tattoos and semicolon magnets and charms and stuff like that. So if you don't know about it before GRL, you're gonna know about it after.
That's good.
Lots of semicolons.
So what's the best way for everyone to keep up with you online?
I spend most of my time on Facebook. And so my Facebook page is under J.R. Barten. And then I have a specific page, author page, and then I also have my J.R. Barten, my regular account under Facebook. And then I also write a blog. It's not very consistent, but there is the last several posts have had a lot to do with the book and leading up to the book. So there's a lot of perspective about my life. One of the posts says it's our story's not over yet. So really it's about me and Sherry and kind of going through this journey. And that's jrbarten.wordpress.com. So I'm also on Twitter, Jen Rescue Mama, referring to my rescue dogs and the fact that we've fostered a whole bunch of dogs. So Jen Rescue Mama. And then I'm also on Instagram under JR Barten. And my email too is jrbartenauthor@gmail.com. So any of those ways, but most frequently I'll be on Facebook. You'll almost always see a little green light next to my name. Even when I'm working from home, when I get a break, I'm like, oh, let's go check Facebook. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you in Kansas City.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. See you there.
You can follow the GRL Blog Tour by going to gayromlit.com/2016 blog tour.
The podcast has teamed up with the authors that we're hosting on the GRL Tour to give away a 7-inch Fire tablet that's loaded with books from our guests. In addition, I've added books in, as Wild City Press, with a package of books from their authors that are attending GRL. You can see the raffle copter to enter the giveaway, which is on episode 50's show notes. The big GRL Blog Tour giveaway will run through Sunday, October 23rd, which is the day that GRL closes. And in addition, if you go to the show notes page, you'll find a list of all the participating authors who have books on the fire. Now, you need a word for the week to get your bonus entries, and this week, in honor of GRNW, that word is Seattle. Seattle. So you can put that in to get your bonus entries for this week and increase your odds of winning.
Mm.
So it's Fall TV Premiere Week.
Fall TV! Do you remember the specials they used to have?
Oh my God, yes. There was always the one for the primetime shows and always the one for the Saturday morning cartoons, which were the best.
God, those were the best things ever.
And I have to say, it was a good throwback that NBC did this year with the cast of Superstore.
They did an excellent fall preview. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, we happened to catch it. It was on Esquire Network, I think. It was on one of NBC's multitude of cable channels, and we recorded it on a whim. And I think we said, even as we did it, if Superstore does this in character, it's going to be a hoot. They did it in character, and it was a hoot. Managing to combine things going on in Cloud9 and tying those uniquely back to NBC shows.
Yeah.
My favorite was putting Mateo into the bag for what is that show called? I can't even remember the one that's got the woman who is all the tattooed and in the bag, because we don't watch that show. But that was a hysterical moment.
Oh, so crazy.
If you could find that on NBC.com or something, watch that 30 minutes, because it was awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, TV essentially starts up again this week after the summer short run shows that we're on. I've got a couple things I'm really looking forward to. This Is Us, which is going to be on NBC's Tuesdays at 10, and it starts on September 20th. From the previews I've seen of this so far and what I've read, it looks like it's kind of a blend of 30-something with a little bit of maybe the good seasons of Parenthood in there. It's got Justin Hartley, who for a long time was the Green Arrow back on Smallville. And it's also got, it's got Jess from the Gilmore Girls.
Milo Ventimiglia.
Yes. I won't begrudge him for being Jess. And actually, I can't on the previews, I have a hard time even recognizing him in the beard as being Jess. So this show looks really good, and I'm kind of psyched to see it. Speechless is a sitcom on ABC, which will be on Wednesdays at 8:30 starting September 21st. This is a sitcom about a family who, one of the teenagers, has cerebral palsy. And this teenager is portrayed by an actor who has cerebral palsy, although the character he's playing has palsy worse than he does. And he actually has to speak with one of the laser pointer things so that he types out his words. I guess much like Stephen Hawking does. Mm-hmm. This looks very witty, very heartwarming. The pre-reviews have been really good, so I'm curious to see what it's like. And it's got, I didn't write this down. Who's the actress? Minnie Driver.
Yes.
Plays the mom, and it looks charming.
Yeah.
Now, I know from talking before the show, you're not really looking forward to anything new coming this season. True?
Well, I won't say that I'm not looking forward to anything. Those two shows that you actually just mentioned, I am looking forward to giving those a try. What I really meant when we spoke before the episode started, there's nothing that I'm dying to watch. I think I'm a little gun shy when it comes to starting new shows. Inevitably, you see something that, the commercials look absolutely amazing, and you're all psyched about it, and then you watched it, and it's like, eh. Or you happen to find a show that's really super amazing, and then it gets pulled after a couple of episodes, because you're the only person in America watching it.
Yeah.
So, I am personally cagey about new shows, but I'm willing to give them a shot, especially those two that you just mentioned. I think those both are really good.
And I feel the same way. I'm in that boat that you just described with NBC's Timeless, which is the new time travel show. The previews look really good. I'm kind of intrigued, and I'm like, do I really want to go down that path? Mm-hmm. Where I'm either going to get pissed off because the mythology goes somewhere stupid, or it gets pulled, or it gets yanked around, or whatever. So I get where you're coming from. In terms of returning shows, I'm kind of all about the CW for the stuff I'm really super psyched about. The Flash on Tuesdays at 8. It's going to be back October 4th. I'm dying to see what happens now that Barry's mucked up the timeline and rescued his mom. Spoiler if you hadn't finished last season. Sorry about that. And we've talked about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend a lot. I'm so interested to see where season 2 takes that show, given where they ended last season.
Yeah, definitely.
What about you?
For returning shows, for the first time in a long time, I'm eager to see some comedies. I think there's been an interesting comedy resurgence. When it comes to network television, there's, always the same old. There's, a million different procedurals, cop shows, medical shows, same old stuff. We'll always have that. But right now there seems to be a renaissance with new, edgy comedies and superhero shows. So, for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to some of the new comedies. Specifically, I love Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I'm looking forward to the return of Superstore. Mm-hmm. Fell in love with that last season. It's going to be amazing this year, too. I just know it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And I am looking forward to the superhero shows that we watch. Jeff and I mainly focus on the Greg Berlanti shows. But there are, of course, lots of other superhero shows to choose from. There's, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Gotham and, other stuff. There's everything they've got on Netflix. So it's a good time to be a geek, and it's a good time to be a superhero fan. I am looking forward to the Berlanti shows this season. Mm-hmm. While certain storylines from certain shows last year I wasn't super crazy about, I try not to hold that against them because, as we know, superheroes on TV are 1,000 times better than what we've been given from superheroes in the movie theaters.
Amen.
God, what a horrible summer we just had for superhero movies. I, personally, did not go once to the movie theaters this year.
Yeah, I went to Star Trek Beyond without you.
Yeah.
And after that, I can't remember the last one we saw in the theater.
So it's been a long, dry summer for movies. Hopefully, once we get through all these, snooze-inducing Oscar bait movies, we can get back to some good stuff.
The movie that I'm looking forward to, I can tell you, is that musical that's coming with Ryan Gosling, and
that could be interesting.
That looks really good.
You're right. That could be very interesting. So, yes, I am looking forward to some of the really big changes Greg Berlanti is making to his superhero shows. Specifically, of course, Supergirl is now moving to the CW, and that will institute some very big changes now that it's no longer on CBS. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be very interesting to see what direction the show goes in. And also the really big cuckoo banana changes that Flash is going to have to go through now that he has done some shenanigans with the time stream and all sorts of other stuff that has, if you've been reading any of the pre-press about the show, all sorts of shenanigans are going on. He messed up a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep, that he did.
So it should be an interesting season for Barry and the gang on The Flash.
And I'm looking forward to what they're calling it for December for the 4-episode crossover. Mm-hmm. And the second half of the season, Flash Supergirl musical episode, which will be,
Well, we shall see. I'm not quite sure that'll make sense, but
I probably don't care if it makes sense or not.
We'll see if that works out. I'm not too sure about that.
I'm 100% confident. So we should throw things over to Lisa from the Novel Approach. She joins us this week. She's got 3 book recommendations, but she also talks about Banned Book Week, which is coming up next week. So I'm happy to welcome back Lisa from the Novel Approach. It's great to have you back with us. It's been a while.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It has been a long time. GRL has been taking up a lot of your time.
Yeah, everybody's time, and getting ready for it.
Yeah.
So, I know you're getting ready for a great blog feature on Banned Book Week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, September 26th through October 1st, here in the United States, the American Library Association and the Office for Intellectual Freedom celebrate censorship. So this is a week dedicated entirely to the librarians, the heroes of intellectual freedom for all of us, put together this week to recognize the fact that books, even in this day and age, are still being challenged, and people are attempting to have these books banned from libraries, from public libraries and school libraries, as well as classrooms, based upon the fact that they are in any way, shape, or form diverse, whether it's racial diversity, whether it's gender diversity, religious, sexuality, a variety of different reasons. These are books that are in the company of books over decades. Catcher in the Rye, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, To Kill a Mockingbird. These are books that, as recently as Harry Potter, have been challenged for promoting Satanism. Two Boys Kissing, David Levithan's classic novel, because it promoted public displays of affection, and homosexuality. I Am Jazz, the book about the transgender teen, challenged because it promotes, again, alternative life, not lifestyle, that's a poor choice of words, but a diverseness of sexuality and identity. And so this is an entire week for all of us to come together and celebrate our love of reading and our love of books, and the fact that we don't want others to be the voice of censorship and what we are able to have access to, and what our children are able to have. Some of these Underpants series are challenged as inappropriate for their age group. And I can personally say that both of my sons read all of the Captain Underpants books, and they've grown up to be just fine. And so, it's a recognition of our ability to choose what we want to read and have accessible, those books that we choose to read, and not have to succumb to the opinions of others on what is and is not morally and ethically appropriate reading material. So I'm doing a celebration that week of the freedom to read. So I've got a lineup of 11 authors right now. Just to name a few: Edmund Manning joining us, Brandon Witt, Jordan Castillo-Price, Jordan L. Hawk, Reese Ford. So I've got a really great lineup. R.J. Scott and Scotty is there. But yeah, so it's just going to be a week of everyone coming together and celebrating our love of reading and the gift of words and the gift of your artistry, and just a celebration. And the American Library Association, I believe it's ALA.org is their website. There's also a campaign where folks can sign up to have their social media, give access to their social media for a social media wide blog post just saying, hey, it's Banned Books Week. It's something that's automatically done. It's going to be 8 a.m., I believe, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time on September 26th. There's just going to be a massive campaign for the American Library Association to get the word out that, hey, it's Banned Books Week. So I'm looking really forward to that. That's going to be a fun celebration. And what I have out.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what you've got on the blog that week. We'll certainly retweet and repost and share everything you put out that week to our audience. I think that'll be great for them to see, and we'll put in the show notes too the links to ALA so that people can be a part of that big blast that'll come up next week. And so you've also read a couple books that you're excited about. What are your book recommendations for this week?
I have. Well, I'm going to tell the one that I'm really excited about, first of all. It comes out September 20th. And this is imagined within the Infected series by Andrea Speed. And this is her spin-off for Holden, one of her characters in this book that was kind of Roan's sidekick, his sort of kind of a doppelganger in a way, just had Roan's back at every turn. And so this is Infected Holden. Mean Streets is kind of the subtitle of the new series. And this is about Holden taking over Roan's investigation business, his private investigation business. And it's going to be kind of a paranormal noir, I believe, sort of feel to it. If I haven't read it, but if I have to guess, I would guess that Andrea is going to go with that kind of noirish feel. And Holden is he's a regular kind of badass. Kind of, am I allowed to say ass? I just said it twice. Cover your ears, kids. But he lives by his own code, lives by his own set of rules. He is former rent boy, so he's been out on the streets, and he knows how to carry himself, and he knows how to handle a weapon, and he'll kind of, he'd shank you for, for looking at him crosswise. That's kind of what Holden's like. So I'm really excited about that. That one's going to be a fun new branch off to the series I absolutely love. So I'm looking really forward to that one, and we'll get we'll get more of her hockey boys in there too, which I know you can appreciate the hockey boys.
Oh,
and yeah. So that's going to be a fun one. Looking forward to that. September 12th from DSP Publications. That one's coming out. So mystery, suspense, paranormal. It's got it all, action and everything, I'm sure. So yeah. So that one's a fun one. But I agree. There were a couple of books that I was really super excited about that I just read recently. One of them actually was an audiobook. And I know that I talked to you a couple of podcasts ago about Jordan L. Hawk's Hex Worlds series and the book Hexbreak. Well, I got the opportunity to listen to it on audio, narrated by Tristan James, who is one of the pioneers in this genre. And for reading the book and immersing yourself in that world, in the hex world that Jordan is building, reading it was pretty phenomenal, but listening to it just took it up just another level. Tristan James just brought so much energy to the narration of the book, and his accents. Reading a book, you don't always think in New York City in the 19th century that the accents, I expected, American accent. Well, the accents for Cicero and Tom. Cicero's was kind of a East London Cockney, I suppose. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but he had this kind of a East London sort of accent. And then Tom's Irish brogue. It just really it brought the characters to life in such a way that was really exciting, and then their action and suspense, and he's really a phenomenal narrator. It was the first time I had ever listened to him, and I was really excited about that. So if anybody who has read the book or hasn't read the book, if you love audiobooks, it's really an outstanding audiobook, and I'm not much of an audiobook listener. I tend to find that my mind tries to want too much, but it was just, I mean, stupid story. This is going to make me look like the dumb blonde, but I was on a walk and I was listening to it, and I was so engrossed in the thing that I'm wrong and went like a half mile before I realized that I didn't know where I was going. So yeah, so I got an extra mile in on my walk because I was so enraptured with the story that I turned the wrong way. That's a good one. I highly recommend that one. Yeah, and then the other book that I just read, and I think that last time we had talked about the St. Flaherty series, S. Hunter Nisbet St. Flaherty series. And I hadn't read The Mercy of Men at that particular point in time. It was up next on my list. Well, since then, I've read that book, not only that one, but I've also read her newest book, All Roads Lead to Hell. So that gives you kind of a picture of what this series is about. The What Boys Are Made Of, The Mercy of Men, and then All Roads Lead to Hell is book 1.5. So it knocks in between books 1 and 2, the full-length books of the series. All Roads Lead to Hell is a shorter novel, and I say short because it's like still almost 200 pages. But it's a unique book within the scope of the series because it's only got a single narrator, which the other books are told from multiple points of view, and then it's told by a character that I would have maybe said was more of a secondary minor character up to this point, but a lot of revealing of things within the series that is teasing out, you know? So you'll read something and then you go back and read 1.5 and go, oh God, that makes so much sense. So this series is going down as a favorite of 2016. I mean, it's just it's dark and dismal and gritty and dystopian, and it's not a unicorns and rainbows kind of read, but it's just really a phenomenal series. She's doing a fantastic job of world building and teasing things out and things that you think, okay, I get it. You don't really get it until she gives you one more little part of the puzzle later on, you know, or in this case, in between with the 1.5 book. So yeah, it's really she has from everything that I can see at this point, she has really plotted the crap out of this series because it's all coming together so and I don't want to say slowly because that makes it terrible. It's come together in pieces and segments that just make you go, holy crap. So it's just it's a great series. So that one's another one. I'm telling you, if everybody these books I would buy, you know, but again, they're not to everybody's taste. They're not in fluffy arms, and there's a lot of, you know, it's kind of when comparing it to our own sociological and societal kind of morals and codes and cues, it doesn't align with our way of thinking, but it's just a really really beautifully plotted series. So yeah, it's one of those where it's like, please read it, but it's not for everybody, but it's really awesome. So yeah, I can highly recommend that one too.
Yeah, and since we talked about that one the first time, it's been on my TBR.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep adding these books in, and I hope I'll eventually get to them.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is again, I said, you know, books 1 and 2, they're not short books. I mean, this world that she's building is it's really, it's kind of, it's impressive. It's very impressive how much thought that she's really put into this, and even going back to like the our own knowledge of the Civil War in the 1860s, where brothers fought against brothers on opposite sides of the war. She's even brought in even those little tiny minor things, that is really shaping. Particularly Mick in All Roads Lead to Hell, that it's really shaped who he was, because without giving too much away, he and his brothers fought on the opposite sides of the war. So it's really an interesting dynamic from a human standpoint and a societal standpoint that it's very kind of almost not Big Brother, but that kind of dystopian feeling where everything is just, the syndicates, which is kind of a mafia, are the norm. They're the rule rather than the exception in the city, and so it's just very much very kind of backwards sort of mirror image of the way our society is, so it's a lot of fun.
Cool. All right. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. We will link up to all the books you recommended in the show notes, and we look forward to following along with the authors you've got next week for Banned Book Week. Thank you. I am looking forward to it too. I'm excited. So we thank Lisa for coming and talking to us, especially about Banned Book Week, which we're excited to see the content that the Novel Approach puts out on that next week. So watch either the Novel Approach site itself or watch our Twitter feed and Facebook page, and we'll be sharing out that content so that you don't miss any of it.
Yes, looking forward to that. Coming up next week in episode number 51, we talk to Bea and Leah Koch. They're the owners of the Ripped Bodice Bookstore in L.A. We're going to get all the info about how they started this unique endeavor and how things are going.
Yeah.
Is it the only all-romance bookstore in the U.S.?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that'll do it for us for this week. So we'll see you back here for episode 51.
See you next time, guys.
Thank you for listening to Jeff and Will's Big Gay Fiction Podcast. New episodes are available every Monday at iTunes and other major podcast outlets. While there, subscribe to the show and please consider leaving a review. For detailed show notes, links, and to sign up for the monthly newsletter, visit biggayfictionpodcast.com.